The same way ABBA can get on here and say, well, he just makes a bunch of videos about black people. Well, ABBA, you don't live in America. Why do you make so many videos about what we got going on over here? How about you talk about how these Indians are coming over to your beaches and digging holes so they can shit in your beaches, to the point where if you go to a beach, a very popular, a lot of popular beaches over there in Canada, and you try to just have a nice fun day at the beach, you gotta walk past all the shits. Where's your video about that, ABBA? When we're talking about tethers, I'm gonna need you guys to understand what that actually means. It's not just a blanket term for all non-FBA black people. No. Tether is a very specific term that we use for people that are within the diaspora that are not Black American, but for some reason, and this especially applies to those who don't even live in America, hasn't even been to America. They're over in some other country and they talk out the side of their neck about our issues and try to tether themselves to our conversation, our struggle, and try to wag their finger at Black Americans saying, well, you need to do this and y'all need to just do this. Whole time their homeland fucked up. Whole time they done ran away from wherever the hell they're from. They ran from Africa to be over there in London. They ran to Canada. Their family members fled the very problems that their home countries are having, but they have the nerve to talk out the side of their neck about Black Americans. Now, we have our problems, just like every community has their problems, but I can't stand a disrespectful mother trucker. The term tether gets misappropriated, so that's why I don't like to use it very often, but ABBA is a perfect example of a tether, like a real life tether, and we'll get into why. I'm not gonna talk out the side of my neck about the different issues going on in, the different African countries. I'm not gonna talk out the side of my neck because I don't live there. I'm not gonna try to tell the people there what they should be doing, but that respect is just a two-way street, right? If we can respect each other and respect that we're both going through different issues and we're trying to figure things out, then by all means, we're good. But the moment people start talking crazy out the side of their neck and trying to tether themselves to Black American issues while not even living in America, which is what ABBA does. Black people are sick of Black people. Black fatigue. This is a conversation we've been having as Black people, not even since this whole Black fatigue term was hijacked, because it meant something different before it became mainstream. I remember being a kid and hearing my parents and the other Black folks around me talk about how there was a difference between Black people and niggas. That's been a conversation here in Black America. We've been made that distinction between us and them ghetto ratchet ass niggas. Those of us who want better for Black people, we're sick of these niggas because they bring the whole brand down with their ratchet ass behavior. Every time we try to move things in a positive direction, here we go putting Sexy Red's ugly ass in the faces of everyone else, and they're looking at us like we're Sexy Red, and we're not. That bitch does not represent me. NBA YoungBoy does not represent Justin. Let these niggas tell you they're the face of the Black community. Like hell they are. This is a conversation we've been having. There's a difference between us and them. And that is the very point that Stevie be making in these videos. And what's funny is that I'm not even like an avid Night Talk viewer. I will click on the videos I find interesting. Even with me just watching a few videos, I can already peep game. I know exactly where Stevie's coming from because me and a lot of other Black people that want better for themselves and for other Black folks don't like all this nonsense. We understand what's going on here. But see, this is what happens when you have tethers latching themselves onto Black American issues. Bitch, you're trying to sip the Kool-Aid, you don't know the flavor. The same way ABBA can get on here and say, well, he just makes a bunch of videos about Black people. Well, ABBA, you don't live in America. Why do you make so many videos about Trump? Why do you make so many videos about what we got going on over here? Why don't you talk about Justin Trudeau? How about you talk about how these Indians are coming over to your beaches and digging holes so they can shit in your beaches, to the point where if you go to a beach, a very popular, a lot of popular beaches over there in Canada, and you try to just have a nice fun day at the beach, you gotta walk past all the shit. They got tents up because they built literally holes in the sand so they can shit into them? Where's your videos about your healthcare system? While you guys sit over here and say, oh, we have free healthcare, na boo boo. But then you have people waiting years to see a doctor. Where's your video about that, Abba? Where's your video about the different issues going on in Ethiopia? How about Haiti? I think maybe they've done like 1 or 2 videos about Haiti. But Haiti is going through a lot of I've seen some of the documentaries coming out of Haiti and it's terrifying. So you're accusing it, well, all you do is talk about Americans. Why don't you talk about Canada and what's going on in your home country? Since you want to tether yourself to our issues, tether yourself to our conversations, but you don't even know what's going on over here. Because the conversation Stevie's been having about blackness, black culture, this is something we've been talking about, Abba. You don't know about that conversation, but you want to be all up in the Kool-Aid and give your tethered take. How about you focus on the issues in your hometown, in your home country, before you get over here and you start wagging the finger at Stevie, trying to paint him as an anti-black, self-hating Uncle Tom, because you don't understand the conversation he's having, because that conversation has nothing to do with you. That's all you doing is ear hustling. When you have these foreign blacks that stick their nose in our business and they act like they could tell us something. He's acting like he could tell Stevie about himself on a conversation he's not even involved in. Because the things that I've heard Stevie say, I haven't heard everything he said. The conversation he is having is a Black American one, and we've been having it for quite some time. Hell, there are videos of Malcolm X having this same conversation.
Negroes for 10 years had to fight the city to get an annex built on the Harlem Hospital. Because in Harlem, we need a hospital more so than anything else. Our people are sick. Plus, we do a lot of cutting and shooting of each other, though we profess to be nonviolent.
Today, you could point to a large number of Negro leaders who have consistently betrayed Negroes in a whole host of areas.
They aren't really Negro leaders. These are puppets that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. These are parrots that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. You can't name me a Negro leader who has been betrayed Negroes, who has not been endorsed, sanctioned, subsidized, and supported by the white liberals. Now, concerning the poll taken by Newsweek magazine, I think you said that this was the leaders who said that, who went with King and against Mr. Muhammad around 90%. I just told you a little while ago, these leaders that they call leaders, this included Lena Horne, this included Dick Gregory, and this included comedians, comics, trumpet players, baseball players. Show me in the white community where a comedian is a white leader. Show me in the white community where a singer is a white leader, or a dancer or a trumpet player is a white leader. These aren't leaders. These are puppets and clowns that have been set up over the white community and over the black community by the white community and have been made celebrities and usually say exactly what they know that the white man wants to hear.
Twice you've referred to the Negroes, the so-called Negroes. You find some fault with this description,
Yes.
I gather.
Mr. Muhammad teaches us that Negro is a term that was applied to us during slavery by the slave master. And right today, it's a term that is used only to point out the descendant of slaves. It's never used for black people, period. Africans can come to this country. They aren't called Negroes. And if they are called Negroes, they resent it. So if Negro meant black, as we've been taught, it would be a term that would be applicable to or applicable to everyone. But he says that it is something that means a slave or something who is, it means something that has been left out of society, politically, economically, educationally, and otherwise.
You don't think of it as an anthropological term?
Definitely. It's not an anthropological term. It's a slave term. And it was a term that was invented in America and was used by the slave makers, slave traders, and slave masters and attached to the property or the chattel or merchandise that our people represented in that particular day.
Now, obviously, the conversation around the word nigga and Negroes, that conversation has obviously evolved. Malcolm X was referring to it as the term used for chattel slavery. Since Black people adopted that word, we started calling each other that. It has now taken a new form. It's still the same concept, using a word to describe the whole, and it is inherently a negative term. And obviously, it's been adopted into the lexicon. It is something that we should strive to stop using, myself included. Hey, I'm a work in progress, myself included. While it is a term that has been adopted into the lexicon, we have to understand what it means, what it represents. The same way the word Negro back in his time meant what it meant, the term nigga means what it means today, which is ratchet ignorance. But for some reason, we want to categorize all black people under that term, and that is just not the case. Niggas may be black people, but black people are not inherently niggas. So now what you gonna do? Say Malcolm X? Oh, he's just denigrating black people. I'm not represented by no damn Sexy Red or Sukiana or any of these ugly ass bitches they want to put as the face of the black community. They don't represent me, just like NBA Pookie does not represent Justin.
Black people are sick of black people. Dear black people, you suck.
You guys already know, I don't like Nick Fuentes. With this, when we were watching the video, the things Nick was saying, unfortunately, and see, this goes back to the conversation about niggas making us look bad. Because the things that he was pointing out, it shouldn't be titled Dear Black People. It should be titled Dear Niggas. Because the behavior he was describing, Nick Fuentes, was niggatry. Not black behavior, nigga behavior. There's a difference. And I believe Stevie was pointing that out too in the video, and was upset that we represent ourselves in this way, or that there are a subset of black people that get the most press and they get to put out this image of us, and then they behave that way out in the public and they make the rest of us look a mess.
Black men don't date black women. Black people don't want to hear this. Only weak black men date white women. You know, shout out to, because he's dating a white woman.
So is Preach. Next.
He's got a complex. He's a little bit, insecure.
I guess Preach is insecure too, because he's married to a white woman.
And you got to appreciate the hypocrisy. They'll be like, oh my God, these people think about race way too much. And they make that much amount of content about black people.
And you make all this content about black America. You make all this content about America in general. Nigga, what's going on in Canada? What's going on in Ethiopia? Preach. What's going on in Haiti? Here they got some cannibalism going on over there, allegedly. They're eating the cats and the dogs.
And the whole point was that there's an asymmetry, that you only really talk negatively about the black community. But he goes on to explain why, and I want to give him a chance to. So
just like you guys only talk negatively about America. You never talk about your homeland. You always want to talk about what we got going on over here. You want to talk out the side of your neck about Trump. You want to talk out the side of your neck about things going on in America, but you don't ever want to talk about what's going on in Ethiopia. You don't want to talk about what's going on in Canada. Outside of one, I think it was like one video where they talked about how there was a fart and then the government shut down because someone farted. I think you understand asymmetry very well, Abba, and you don't have a problem with it until you want to make a point about somebody else.
I give black people this attention that I do because I want the best for my community. And whether you agree with it or not, us as a people get stigmatized the worst. I've took it upon myself to make an effort in my videos to wake us up. I'm black. Motherfuckers out here doing crazy black shit. We represent each other. I'm sick of this fucking image that is burned in the back of people's minds of how they think black people are.
Like I said, black Americans been having this conversation.
Bro, I heard they was tripping up there in Portland, bro. But yeah, damn.
That dumb shit you got right there? Bye-bye. All y'all
what the? You're like 100 pounds.
weirdo.
There's usually
And it's 100 pounds and the register I dropped. Knock that whole piece out. So what's good? What's good? What's good? Come on.
Is it like
My
trailer
hands are
bitches if you want
registered.
them now? Don't have seats to begin with?
I'll be so
Big bitch, my hands are registered too. I didn't even catch that the last time I watched this. Not this high calorie broad. My hands are registered too. This is a clown show.
You don't scare me. Come on. You won't say it again, right? That's how you won't say it again, right? Say it again. Y'all touched me, you weird ass. Y'all touched me, you weird ass. Y'all are weird.
Guess what the title of this video is? This shit going viral. Dropped yesterday. 4 million views, dog. White people who act black are the worst.
Who brought up that this white girl was acting black? I'm guessing this is a white woman's account because that's who the picture is. White people who act black are the worst. This is what Stevie is reacting to. He's reacting to this other person who called that behavior as acting black. This seemingly white account making the statement based on that video clip we just watched, the little chihuahua and the pit bull. White people who act black are the worst.
Y'all good with that? Y'all good with that? Black people? Y'all good with that being labeled acting black? I don't know what that is. I know what that is, bro. That's acting like a nigga.
Where's the lie? That's not acting black. That's acting like a nigga. But let everybody else tell it that's black. But oh my God, Stevie, he's just so anti-black. Look, he thinks this is how black people behave. No, he made a distinction because there's a difference. And black Americans understand this.
That's what that is, bro. But let the world tell it. That's what they think acting black is, dog.
Listen to what he said. Because words matter, right? Abba, preach. Words matter. That's what they think. He didn't say that that's what he thinks. That little heifer was acting black. She's acting like a nigga. Completely different. That has nothing to do with black people. We don't act that way. We're proper. We pay our taxes. She was acting like a nigga. She wasn't acting black. But they say that that is acting black.
Don't lie. Don't for 1 second lie to yourself, bro. That's the first thing y'all fucking saw was this girl acting culturally influenced, bro. And if that is a result of black culture, dog, you see what the problem is.
So Stevie makes the argument that the asymmetry that he has when he covers, minorities like this a lot is because he cares and he wants to improve their image. Right?
Did that or did that not show a desire for our image to be better? That was nigga behavior, but it gets umbrellaed over all of us. Are you good with that? How can you label that as anything but wanting our image to be better, wanting better for the black community? How could you label that anything different?
Sat with that for a little bit. It made me think.
Maybe you did think about it, but you're disingenuous. So your thoughts were, how can I twist this? How can I twist this for my audience to make this man who hurt my feelings look like a coon? How can I twist this so that my audience, who are too stupid to actually go back and think about what he said, they're just gonna take what I say? How can I twist this for my audience so that it makes Stevie look bad because he hurt my feelings?
I think there's an argument to be made that it's good to be self-accountable, to think back to your own behaviors, how you kind of are perceived and things like that. But I always have an issue with people, especially folks like this, because oftentimes like they'll say, listen, I'm moving on. I don't want to, focus and be a victim anymore. I don't want to be focused on race and things like that. But then you look at a lot of their content and it's like hyperfixated.
When did Stevie say he doesn't want to talk about race? If anything, he said he does want to talk about race because he wants to wake people up. He wants to wake black people up. So you're making an argument about something he didn't say.
Here's a white woman who's acting ignorant.
And see, this is where the disingenuous nonsense comes in. She's just being ignorant. And while that's technically true, but we know good and damn well what they're going to label that as. Because who do you see more times than not behaving that way? Niggas. So of course, people are gonna say, you're acting like a nigga. Or, people who aren't in the conversation, they'll just say, she's acting black. Well, she's just being ignorant. She's not acting black, she's just being ignorant. Well, I agree, but let's not pretend like we don't understand how the rest of the world views it. Let's not pretend that we didn't know what that white woman, I'm guessing it was a white woman based on the profile picture, why she said, I hate when white girls act black, white people that act black. Despite us knowing the distinction between niggas and black people, we all get labeled as black. So what the degenerates do gets labeled as black. So then you end up with people seeing a little heifer acting ignorantly. I agree. It gets labeled as acting black. So Abba, you're telling me you're too stupid to put these things together, or are you being that disingenuous? Who, more times than not, do you see behaving that way? Because ignorant takes a lot of different forms. Ignorant is kind of an umbrella term for poor behavior, because I would say that there are trailer trash that act ignorantly, but their ignorant is a little bit different from our ignorance. Okay, every group has ignorance. There are Asian ignorance, there are Latina ignorance, there are ignorance in all creeds. The London ignorance are different from, the West African ignorance. Every community has ignorance, but their ignorant behavior, it just shows up a little bit different. That little heifer, her ignorant behavior would fall under the category based on the mannerisms, based on the fact that she even said out her mouth, nigga. That's what they were bleeping out, her saying nigga. Obviously, the way she was behaving, that would get categorized as Black behavior because it represents the behavior of our ignorance. She's just being ignorant. She's just being ignorant, you guys. Ignorant takes a lot of different forms. Abba, that form was niggatry.
I just see a person's acting ignorant. And the first thing he does is he brings it back to Black people.
He brings it back to Black people? Yeah, yay or nay? Didn't the caption already have race tied to it? He didn't just pull up the raw video and then say, this is acting Black. That's not what happened. He read the caption of the video that was written by somebody else, and then he addressed it. Oh, he's bringing it back to race. I just see an ignorant person, and he's bringing it back to race.
Viral drop yesterday. 4 million views, dog.
This is the caption of that video he was reacting to. White people who act Black are the worst. He's addressing what the person said. He didn't put that label on it. She did. But Abba knows that his audience is too dumb to pay attention. So this is gonna fly right over their head. They'll just hear him say that, and then they'll just completely forget. They'll act like they didn't see this. Deaf, dumb, and blind. Emphasis on the dumb. They'll just act like they didn't see this, as if he's not responding to a caption. Of course he's gonna bring it up. That's what he's reacting to. And I don't think it takes that much brain power to discern this. Like, you have to be listening. Wait, hold on. You have to be listening and paying attention, like they used to say. You have to actually listen and pay attention. But he knows his audience is just gonna completely forget about this and just take what Abba said as word. Word is bond. See how he brings it back to Black people, even though what he's reacting to was a white woman calling this other white woman saying she was acting Black. So yes, he's gonna address it because that's part of the video. That's the caption. That's the reason why he's responding to the video and reacting to it.
And the first thing he does is he brings it back to Black people and he feeds into that narrative like this is acting Black or whatever it is.
He's feeding into that narrative that this is acting Black.
Y'all good with that? Y'all good with that? Black people? Y'all good with that being labeled acting Black? I don't know what that is. I know what that is, bro. That's acting like a nigga. That's what that is, bro. But let the world tell it. That's what they think acting Black is, dog.
I should have been a lawyer. I'm in the wrong profession. My ass need to be in a courtroom somewhere. Yeah, he's saying that that's Black behavior. I don't know what that is. Wait, I know what it is. That's acting like a nigga. There's Black people and then there's niggas. In Abba's mind, Black people are niggas and niggas are Black people. But if you're in this conversation, you know, like I know, that while niggas are Black people aren't necessarily niggas. Abba, in his mind, he believes that niggas and Black people are all the same because he's a tether and he doesn't understand the conversation. We've made delineation from our degenerates and we've been having this conversation for quite some time. Hell, Brittany Venti, she got a bunch of heat because she's biracial, but she said this and it was true, that even in her biracial family, the Black side of her family, they too had that distinction. She made a tweet about this, that there was a difference between Black people and niggas. You're all up in the Kool-Aid, you don't know the mother trucking flavor. Tether. maybe you should step the hell up out of our business and let us handle ours. You clearly think that niggatry and black behavior are the same thing. So when you hear a conversation like this, you don't know what's going on. You're ear hustling. And then you want to go tell your audience what it is when you yourself don't have a clue.
So Stevie makes the argument that the asymmetry that he has when he covers, minorities like this a lot is because he cares. And
Exactly,
he wants to improve
Vernon.
their image, right? And I sat with that for a little bit. It made me think, because I wondered to myself,
How can I manipulate my audience?
I think there's an argument to be made that it's good to be self-accountable, to think back to your own behaviors, how you kind of are perceived and things like that. But I always have an issue with people, especially folks like this, because oftentimes, like, they'll say, listen, I'm moving on. I don't want to, focus and be a victim anymore. I don't want to be focused on race. And
I don't want to be focused on race. Where does Stevie say that when he's talking about the conversation about us as Black Americans and our issues and how we need to turn this thing around? If he's out his mouth saying that he wants to wake people up, then clearly he's not saying what you're saying he's saying. So you're, again, manufacturing another narrative. Because clearly he does want to talk about race. Clearly he does want to address Black issues because he said as much out his mouth.
But then you look at a lot of their content and it's like hyper fixating on race. Here's a white woman who's acting ignorant, right? I just see a person's acting ignorant.
I just see an ignorant person. This is just like those people that say, I don't see color. I don't see color. Get the fuck out of here.
And the first thing he does is he brings it back to Black people.
He brings it back to Black people, even though he was responding to a caption that said that this little white girl was acting Black. He brings it back to race. Okay.
He feeds into that narrative like this is acting Black or whatever.
He said this is acting like a nigga, which is different from acting Black. You're feeding into that narrative because you want to lump us together with our degenerates.
And that's how you kind of perpetuate a lot of these stereotypes and things like that, because like vast majority of Black folks are not acting this way.
And that's what Stevie is addressing. So you're trying to chastise him and then take his talking point.
Mass majority of Black people are not acting like that, but the people that are acting like that are Black.
Thank you, Preach. Majority of Black people don't act like that, but the people who act like that are majority Black. And that's the problem. And that's the same problem that Stevie was bringing up in his video. So they're taking his talking points and then chastising him, trying to call him an Uncle Tom, while they steal his talking points and paint him as the bitch that made the caption in the first place. He didn't make that caption.
She's not Black.
I'm not saying that she is. I'm saying that the way she's acting. Not all Black people act like her. The people that act like that, most people that act like that are Black.
Ignorance is a general term. Then you get your subset of ignorant. The degenerates over there in China, okay, because I live there, the ignorance that they have over there in China, they act differently from Black American ignorance. It's still ignorant, still ignorant behavior, but it looks different. It shows up different. There are levels to this shit, but you want to focus on the umbrella term so that your audience doesn't look deeper to see that you're being disingenuous and lying about Stevie's entire point. So I guess this is what he means by clicked through the videos. Looked at him long enough so he could switch it up and manipulate it and turn it into a lie. This is Abba clicking through the video, you guys. You see how he interpreted this all fucked up? And this is the guy you're trusting who's clicking through the videos and he looked at them. Look at all these titles. You can't trust this Tether.
Much more than America, Black people exist outside of that. And that's Black American.
That's Black ignorant. That's not FBA. We have ignorance. That's how they behave. That's not how the rest of us behave.
Even saying that's Black American, like it's just ghetto.
Yeah,
and like most Black people don't live in the ghetto.
I understand.
So we have to be careful. See, you're also feeding into that narrative.
No, I'm not feeding. I'm just saying that, yeah, there's some people that act like that. A lot of people that are acting like that are Black. That's who made it so popular on the social media. But that's not acting Black. That's just one side of it. It's just like saying that, oh, that's acting white, and we just show one part of how white people act. It's just bing, 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 bing. And all the white people are like that. That's just, hey, you know what? It's not. It's just one side of it. It's just very. It's 1% of it. It's a little part of it. I'm not saying that all black are like acting like that and everything is that was all black. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the people that put it out there was black people. And you think that's feeding into that narrative?
Yeah.
He's being disingenuous because anyone looking at her behave that way, that is the perception that they're going to have. See, Alba wants to argue from an idealist perspective, not a real world perspective where people engage in pattern recognition, where people engage in stereotypes, where people engage in organizing people into these little boxes and not looking further. See, Alba wants to argue from the ideal because he's a virtue signaler. As much as he wants to chastise liberals for virtue signaling, this is exactly what he's doing. He's virtue signaling to black people. But what's crazy is that we know what Stevie meant. Those of us who are not disingenuous and actually listen to what he said, we know what he was saying. We're not offended by it because we agree. We're sick of niggas taking over our image. What Abba is doing, he's arguing from an idealist standpoint where this shouldn't be. And I agree, it shouldn't be, but bitch, it is. That is the world we live in. People like you and your audience categorize things without looking further, just like you're doing with Stevie, but then you want a virtue signal about not feeding into stereotypes while you try to stereotype Stevie. How the hell does that work? You're trying to stereotype Stevie as an Uncle Tom, but you're not actually investigating. You're just looking at a few things and then just creating this entire narrative about him. You're feeding into a stereotype, the Uncle Tom stereotype. But because that's a stereotype that, you know, a lot of black people don't like, you think it's okay. And then you're going to virtue signal to the rest of us, oh yeah, look, that's not black. That's ignorant behavior. Even though we live in a society where people generalize and we know good and damn well exactly how they're generalizing it. It does not serve us to live in the woulda, shoulda, coulda reality because it's not reality. It's fantasy. The reality of the situation is that behavior is labeled as black, even if it shouldn't be. And that's where the problem lies. That's what Stevie wants to fix. That's what I want to fix. That's what Messy Michonne wants to fix. We got a lot of people, not everybody are the Hodge twins or Officer Tatum that just want to wag the finger and get some butter biscuits off the shit. No, there are some of us out here who genuinely want our image to be cleaned up because we don't want our children being labeled as that. I don't want someone to look at my daughter and assume she's one way. I don't want people looking at my son and thinking he's a YN just because he's black. So we can't fix it if we pretend like it doesn't exist and argue from an idealist perspective. Because guess what? It's not an ideal world. It's very flawed. And it does not serve us to pretend like it isn't. And then get mad at people for pointing out the reality.
I think sometimes we hyperfixate on the ghetto experience. Yeah, sure, it's culturally relevant as well. But like even just labeling that like a very black thing is a bit ignorant because it's a really just small, hyper small segment, right? And you'll just see, this is the problem because I think a lot of these conversations are more linked about class than they are about race. But all we focus on is the skin color.
Again, you're thinking in the ideal. Ideally, we can understand that class and poverty and all of this plays into it. Environment, demographic, all of that plays into it. It's not really a race thing, right? People don't act ignorantly because they're black. They're ignorant and they just so happen to be black. We understand that, but is that the way the rest of the world sees it? No. We can't argue with people or try to convince people without getting them to see, through representation. That's why representation does matter. That's why I always say that if you are against this nonsense, you have to be vocal about it. Because the moment we're silent, the moment the black people that are not with that nonsense, the black people who don't support, over-sexualization of us, who don't support YNs, gang culture, all of that, the moment we stop putting it out on Jump Street that we don't agree with it, that's the moment our silence becomes acceptance of that nonsense. That's when they get to say, that's black culture, because we don't outwardly tell them, that's not us, that's not black culture. Every time the mainstream media wants to prop up, this is black culture, and it's a bunch of ignorant shit, if we collectively come together and say, no, it's not, they can't say it's our culture. All they could say, it's a subset. It's a subculture. That's why it's important to be vocal about it, because we don't live in an ideal world where everyone can understand that people are ignorant and just so happen to be black, not ignorant because they're black.
Because I think sometimes we hyperfixate on the ghetto experience. Yeah, sure, it's culturally relevant as well. But like even just labeling that like a very black thing is a bit ignorant because it's a really just small, hyper small segment, right? And you'll just see, this is the problem, because I think a lot of these conversations are more linked about class than they are about race. But all we focus on is the skin color, right?
I agree.
And then we talk about these things, and then we make the problems much bigger than they actually are.
Agree.
So Abba wants us to just stop talking about it, because Abba himself likes to paint narratives. So right now, this just looks like him throwing on the cape for other people who want to paint narratives. Because if we don't talk about it, guess what they get to say? Ignorant shit is black culture. Folks that are not within our group get to look at us and say, this is black culture, because we don't stand up and tell them that it's not. So you're basically arguing for us to give them a blank slate to tell the entire world what black culture is, while they fund the sexy reds, while they put money in the pockets of ignorant ass black people to get up here and make a fool out of the rest of us. Oh, but we shouldn't say anything about it and just let them dictate what our image is? Bitch, are you mad? At the beginning of their debate, right? When they first had their debate, even the first follow-up video, I was still like, yeah, I still watch Abba and preach. I don't care. I mean, yeah, what they did was fucked up, but I only detach from and unsubscribe from and just stop supporting when people do things that are egregious. This is egregious. And if you are a foundational black American, you should be very disturbed by all of this. He's literally telling us to stop talking about how our ignorance make us look bad, thus allowing our ignorance to hijack the image of black people. The reason why he doesn't care is because he's Ethiopian. And this is a problem, and not all, right? We got some writers, okay? We got some writers that understand respect, and we can have a two-way street of respect. So I'm not talking about all immigrant black people, all not, American black people. I'm not saying that. But Tethers, like Abba, they want to be able to make the black American image look like shit because they're not black American. Well, I'm Ethiopian. And that's the reason why a lot of black Americans are delineating, because you'll have Tethers like Abba who will dog shit on the black American image, and then they'll go run and hide. I'm Ethiopian. I'm Canadian. This is why we have that term tether. Hopefully I've equipped you guys with objective thinking, if you didn't already have it, to actually listen to what is being said, not just take what Abba and Preach are saying face value. I truly believe I've laid it out. There's no other way I can clearly lay this out. If you are just a disingenuous person, or you just have your head so far up Abba's ass that you can't see daylight, that you're sucking on his prostate, then there's nothing else I can say. You don't care about facts. You don't care about evidence. You just care about sucking off Abba.